Well, hello, and welcome to episode 195 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, we started around Christmas a couple weeks ago, right? We talked about A Nightmare Before Christmas, right?
We
So
did.
it was still hanging out in the Halloween town of it all, but we dipped our toe into Christmas. And then we had a big monumental film we had to talk about last week, and Wicked. Maybe that is going to be like the new Christmas standard. I feel like Wizard of Oz already was kind of like a holiday kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
watch that at like Thanksgiving. It seems like it was on TV at Thanksgiving or around Christmas every year. So maybe Wicked is going to be the new Christmas standard, or maybe something that came out on Netflix a couple years ago is going to be your family's Christmas standard. And I believe that we're doing this one because it is one of your son's favorite Christmas movies. So shout out to him there. And maybe it's because he sees himself as the titular Nicholas in this story. But today we're talking about A Boy Called Christmas.
A Boy Called Christmas. Now, for those of you that are like, hey, I've heard of that. That seems familiar. It is a Netflix film. It's been out since 2021, but it was a book before that, and it was written by Matt Haig, who is pretty famous for writing like The Midnight Library. He's done a lot of fictional books. He gets compared a lot to like the more modern Roald Dahl. Um,
Okay, okay.
with some of the stories because some of the things that he says or the things that the kids go through can be kind of scary yet kind of fantastical, and we see that a lot in this film. And I
Hmm.
don't know, I mean, my son, he has a lot to say about movies that we do. We try and do one movie at Christmas time that is generally animated and generally for kids, and
Hmm.
this has been his favorite the last three Christmases in a row. So I thought, why not? Let's do an episode just for that.
Absolutely. Let's do an episode just for that. So that's what we're going to do today. So why don't we do this, Michaela? Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We need to mix up a cocktail that is worthy of the birth of Christmas, as it were. And yeah, we have one that's really good today. So let's do that. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So Brian, the world has given us numerous Santa Claus origin stories, right? There was like
Yes.
this Adventures of Santa Claus that came out in the 1980s. That's like a claymation thing. Probably, oh, I'm the only one of us that's seen that. There was a
It's
Santa
possible.
Claus, the film movie that came out in 1985 that talks about how Santa was created and his elves in the workshop. There's a whole bunch
Hmm.
of these origin stories, but this one hits a little different. And I want to talk about why. But one of the things that is very emblematic, is that the right word?
Sure.
There's an iconic moment, or there's a couple of icons throughout this film, and that is a fuzzy red hat. And so that's why I picked the cocktail today, that is called Fuzzy Red Hat, and it's from Amerigave.
Yeah, absolutely. The fuzzy red hat is quite the iconic symbol of Father Christmas there for sure, and it is a great symbol in this movie. We're going to talk about it, but basically, there is kind of this family hat that get passed down from father and son, and there is a hidden map within the hat, right, that is going to lead young Nicholas to Elfheim. So the fuzzy red hat is the perfect cocktail for this, and I'm very excited to be chatting about it today because I wasn't 100% sure about this one, to be quite honest. It was some flavors that I like, but I wasn't sure how this was going to come together. Now, we found this on Amerigave's website. Amerigave is pretty cool. It's basically a tequila company, but it's based here in the US. So they're not calling it tequila because it's not from Mexico. So they're calling themselves Amerigave. Now, unfortunately, I looked, Amerigave, at least to my knowledge, is not distributing in either North or South Carolina. So we weren't able to get a bottle of that. So what you're going to need in place of the Amerigave today is just 2 ounces of silver tequila.
Yeah. And one thing I like about this too is this can be a mocktail as well as a cocktail. I'm going to be sharing this with my son. It's got a lot of different, maybe conflicting flavors. We'll talk a little bit about what you thought about it, Brian. But it
Hmm.
is what you're going to do is into a shaker tin, you're going to do 2 ounces of your silver tequila. If you can find Amerigave, please try it and let us know, since we couldn't find it ourselves in the Carolinas. You're going to add 2 ounces of cranberry juice, 3/4 of an ounce of fresh orange liqueur, half an ounce of your cinnamon schnapps or any sort of cinnamon simple syrup if you want to keep this less alcoholic. And you're going to shake it and then strain it over some ice.
Hmm. Yeah, you're going to shake it and you're going to strain it into an ice filled kind of cocktail glass. I think I did mine into a rocks glass. And then if you
Yep.
want, you can throw a splash of club soda on top. It's just going to give it just a little bit of effervescence, kind of break up those flavors just a little bit, and then sip and enjoy. You can garnish this kind of with whatever you want, any kind of holiday thing. So if you've got some rosemary hanging out or some little like cranberries or something like that, go ahead and toss those in there because it's going to look awfully pretty in the glass. I did sign up on AmeriAgave's website on a side note to get an alert if they start distributing here. So I'd love to try their stuff as soon as I'm able to see what the difference is, kind of between a traditional tequila and this American, USA made thing there. This flavor wise, though, let's talk about that here for just a minute. I really liked this actually. It tasted to me, it was very approachable, and very like friendly tasting. None of these flavors were like out of the realms. There wasn't any like big swings on this. It was all really, really good. And it reminded me of something that you might get at like a holiday like cocktail hour or something, or you go to like a work party for the holidays, or
Mm,
like a big like friends like get together. Because this was good because it was a little bit interesting just from that cinnamon, schnapps kind of there in the
yep.
background, but it wasn't anything like too like out of the realm of things that people would be put off by. This seemed like a big like crowd pleaser sort of a cocktail, and don't take that as a negative. That's really really good, and it's perfect for this time of year. And you could totally make up a big batch of these and go to town that way if you wanted to do it. Now, if you wanted to do the mocktail route instead of the cinnamon shops, use a cinnamon simple syrup. You're just going to do that by making a simple syrup, and I like to do mine with a cinnamon stick as opposed to ground cinnamon. Because if you use ground cinnamon, you can, but you want to make sure that you strain that out through like a coffee filter or something, or because it's going to get like super gritty in there.
Hmm.
So you're definitely going to want to, make sure you give that a couple strains there. But Michaela, you did the mocktail, like you mentioned, for your kiddo who's a big fan of this movie. Any news or notes about the mocktail version here?
Yeah, he really liked it. I think the cinnamon adds like an extra kind of adultness to it, because otherwise it's just, kind of an elevated cranberry orange juice.
Right.
If you're gonna do orange, you can do a orange liqueur. So there, you can do orange simple syrup as well. You could do actual orange juice. If you're gonna do that, I would say fresh is best, just because you want that brightness to really counterbalance the bitterness or of the cranberry. And then supplement your simple syrup because it is for kids, so you probably want it a little bit sweeter. I don't like
hmm
my cocktails to be too syrupy, so I stuck with the half an ounce on that. But uh, the effervescence is really nice if you put like some cranberries in ice and ice them over and you use them as little ice cubes. That's really fun too.
Oh,
It makes
fancy.
it look
Yeah.
really festive. Yeah. So it's fun. And the good thing about this though is you can make this up and then you can do it for like a crowd pleaser. You can do a big batch of it and you can add either the
hmm
schnapps after as well as the tequila. And so it can be something that, everybody can drink, whether they're living sober or not. And it's all in one kind of vat. And that's
hmm
really what I was thinking about. I was like, ooh, this would be fun for a Christmas party or for any sort of holiday gathering.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You could make up kind of that base, and then let's the adults or anyone that wants to imbibe in the tequila, add that to it. This would be really good for non-alcoholic tequila as well if you're experimenting with any of those flavors out there. So yeah, that is the cocktail, the Fuzzy Red Hat from Amerigave. It was really good. Give it a try, send us pictures, all that stuff. But now, Michaela, what we need to do, if Christmas is literally like 2 weeks away, so we better get this holiday sorted. We're gonna get Nikolas and his talking mouse friend to help us with that. So let's do that. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, A Boy Called Christmas.
It's just one day a year. What shall we call it?
Nicholas and Miika the Talking Mouse Day.
Any other ideas?
Spoiler warning for A Boy Called Christmas. If you've not yet seen this film, it's only been out a couple of years, so no harm, no foul. But we're going to be talking about all the things. There is a really big spoiler at the end. I think if you like it, if you've watched it, and we're going to talk about it. So if you've not seen it, you should press pause right now. You should go watch it. You can find it on Netflix, I promise. Then you should make yourself a fuzzy red hat, and then you can come back and we can chat about all things A Boy Called Christmas.
That's right, absolutely. So this was released in 2021. It was directed by Gil Kennan, and you might have heard that name more recently. He just directed the most recent Ghostbusters film as well. So there you go. And that came out on Netflix here in the United States. So you've had ample opportunities to watch it, and you can watch it there on Netflix now if you would like to check it out. This one stars Maggie Smith as Aunt Ruth, who is serving as the narrator for our tale here, and Henry Lawful as Nikolas, aka the boy called Christmas. As you mentioned at the top, Michaela, this was based off of the Matt Haig book by the same name, which came out in 2015. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. So this book must have come out and made some splashes in terms of storytelling and kind of this world building part of it. And yeah, as we mentioned a couple of times in our Christmas movies, that we've talked about. I do really like it when, kind of Santa Claus and like the actual like inner workings of Santa Claus gets realized. And this is basically the origin story of Santa Claus. So let's just get right into this. I'm going to set this up and then turn it over to you. Basically, you see Maggie Smith walking down the street. She is playing a character by the name of Aunt Ruth. I really like her. She's like looking at the houses. There's one house that is lacking any sort of decorations. She goes in. We see a couple of kids, right? There's a couple of kids. There's a dad. His name is Matt. He's played by Joel Fry, who's pretty awesome. And he's getting ready to set off for work. So Aunt Ruth is coming over to babysit the kids here on Christmas Eve. They are like at their wits' end, say, I don't want Aunt Ruth to come over and talk to us. She's pretty boring. I don't know about that. Don't know about Christmas. Kind of a thing. It's kind of like the Princess Bride story, right? So it's basically kind of like a version of that, except it's about Christmas. Kind of.
Yeah.
On a side note, I want Maggie Smith to come over and read me a story before I go to bed every night because Maggie Smith is awesome. That seems
Yes.
like a good time to have Aunt Ruth come read you a story. But she is going to tell these three kids the story of Nicholas, the boy who would bring Christmas to the world.
Yes. She is very curmudgeon-y in her old ladiness. Like she notices they haven't done any decorating, and Matt is saying, "Oh, the kids are fine," and she's like, "They're absolutely not fine. They're heartbroken." And we find that it's been a couple of years and they've lost their mom, and so they are kind of going through this kind of figuring out what the new normal is, and they didn't see the point in decorating for Christmas. She's not having any of that. She's like, "Well, I'm definitely going to be telling you one of my stories tonight. Sit down. I'm starting to begin, so everybody be quiet." Like she takes no like blip from any of them, even though they are older. I mean, the youngest one looks to maybe 6 or 7, but the oldest one looks to be definitely a teen, and used to kind of being left alone on their devices, perhaps. But I really love that because she's like, "I'm starting, so you better start listening," and she just dives right in.
She just
Once
goes
there was
for
a
it,
little
yeah.
boy named Nicholas, right? I want to talk a little bit about the animation. It is, I didn't know if you knew this, but Gil Kennan also did Monster House. And this animation is similar, but yet also quite different. I really thought that it was going to be the same animators exactly, and they're not. But I really liked the way that they've drawn the different characters and the different like forest atmospheres or the forest surroundings in I guess Finland. They are because there's like this really over sweeping view that you get to see, and at first you think it's being filmed because it's a film, not animated. I don't know how to really explain it, but it's very representative of their like the trees are different once they go further north. The attention to detail in that like set design of the forest is really special, and I didn't pick up on that until this time watching it.
Yeah, there are a bunch of neat sort of there are a couple of like animation tricks. I don't know that that one in particular is an animation trick, but it's going from like a live, like a real life, like I don't know, kind of like hot air balloon or like drone shots of like this landscape of Finland, and then it
Right.
kind of goes in and it's more of like a matte painting kind of a thing. So it
Yeah.
just gives it like this surreal, like dreamlike kind of quality as we're going in and out of the story. And that's one of the things that this movie gets talked about a lot. It does really neat transitions between, kind of the storytelling aspect there. with Aunt Ruth, and then going into Finland, and how it's like transferring back and forth between these. There's a really really neat one. Probably my favorite one is when Nikolas and the reindeer that he befriends are sitting there kind of at this little like campsite in it, and it keeps like pulling back, and like it turns out they were on like the floorboards of the floor, like underneath of like the kid's bed. That one's probably my favorite. So it does some stuff like that. And it does another really cool animation thing here as we make our way to Finland. So we're introduced then to Nikolas, who's this 13-year-old boy, and his father Joel, who is there. He's like a woodcutter, like lumberjack kind of a thing. They live on their own out in the middle of nowhere. They're getting like chased down by a bear. They go home. They have it, pretty rough. There's not like a lot of food. There's not a lot of heat, but they're getting by, and we learn a couple of things. We learn that, Joel's wife, Nicholas's mother, has passed away here at some point. We don't know how long that's been. We know that Nicholas was really attached to her, and still kind of misses her, and kind of the bright spirits, I guess, that she would have brought into their lives, and talks about that. And he asks his father Joel to to tell him the story, of Elfheim, just like or Elfhelm, just like his mother used to. And Joel's like, well, I can't tell it, as good as she can, but I'll try. And then it does another really cool like animation thing where it makes like this shadow kind of animation around the cabin that they live in to retell the story basically of Elfheim, the trials and tribulations of getting there, of going to the far north of Finland and meeting these, magical creatures who can bring joy to the world.
Yeah. I really love that part. I mean, and the similarities between the three children that Aunt Ruth is telling the story to. They've also lost their mother, and this kind of journey that Nikolas is discussing with his father is kind of very symbolic, I think. I really love this piece of animation because it's very different, but it also illustrates that Nikolas has memorized the way to Elfhelm and his father has not, which I thought was interesting because he's asking to be told the story almost every night. But there's it all kind of comes to a head because the king has said, hey, I need somebody to go find me something that will bring wonder and joy to people, and I will pay a pretty penny for that. And it's no secret that Nikolas and his father are not doing super well. Like they have each other, and Nikolas is fine with that, but Joel is like, I would really like more. I want more. And it's that ambition and wanting more that leads him to try and go find Elfhelm so he can bring back something to the king. And he is met up with some other kind of band, like a band of mystery men. I guess it would be called bandits. I don't know. They look like Robin Hood,
I guess, right? Yeah, they're just kind of there are other woodsmen, right? Different hunters and things. We actually meet one of them kind of at the beginning of the film that Joel is going to go off with in pursuit of this prize for the king, right? Obviously Nicholas is like, oh, so people of the world can see, the joy and the magic and stuff like that. And Joel's like, well, no, idyllic 13-year-old kid, it's really so we can get money so I can buy food for you, but also a good trick. Now before he goes to meet the king, we are introduced to another character, maybe the most important character of all of the story. It is Miika, the mouse, right? The little mouse comes in. Joel tries to immediately chop its head off there, which is bad news, but Mika's pretty good. It's this cute little mouse, and Nikolas decides he's going to teach it how to talk, which is maybe the cutest, most endearing part of the whole story, is him trying to teach this little mouse how to talk. So Joel is on his way to do the king's bidding, right? King is a pretty good guy. The king is played by Jim Broadbent, who is awesome. He's awesome. Super funny. He's super great as this Finnish king there, and sends all of the, I guess, able-bodied men on this expedition to the north. So if you're only 13 years old, you can't stay by yourself all winter long. So you're going to have your Aunt Carlotta come to take care of you, right, in the stead of your father there. So she comes in, played by Kristen Wiig. Gotta say, worst aunt of all time.
Pretty bad. And I've read the book. She's even worse in the book. I mean, she's pretty awful. She doesn't care about anything. And Joel even knows it, and he doesn't do anything to stop it, which makes me question Joel's like parental guidance do what you in gotta general. Do. I mean,
you gotta eat.
Yeah. And I think that speaks, right? Because Joel knows this is probably not the best thing. He says to Nikolas, he says, I've asked her to come visit. And he's like, why would you ask her? She's horrible. And he's like, well, it'll be fine. It's only for 3 months, in the worst dead of winter. What could go wrong? Well, everything goes wrong. Kristen Wiig plays an amazing hateable character. I didn't even realize it was her until a good couple of minutes in, because she looks horrible. She's supposed to look horrible because she is really mean. She wants to like toss up Miika into a soup. I remember that. She takes the one toy that Nikolas has, which was a turnip doll that his mother made, this rotten turnip. She turns it into soup, which breaks his heart. It's really awful. The book is even worse. She just makes his life so miserable in that cabin. He decides he's gonna rough it. He and Miika are out of there. They're gonna go and make their fortune and go somewhere else. But before that happens, they burn a small hole in the top of that red hat that his father had for 100 million years and given it to his son to remember him by. And he sees that there is a map, and it's a map that Nikolas remembers from every night hearing this story of how to get to Elfhelm. And so he's like, we'll just follow that map. Surely we'll meet my dad. Maybe we'll meet the elves. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but we got to go right now because I'm not spending another minute with Aunt Carlotta. She's the worst.
He's like, Aunt Carlotta is the worst. She fed me my toy. She burnt my hat. And then, he finds this map to Elfhelm there, and he decides to set off on his own, right? It's just him and Miika can go. They can find their dad. That'll be good. And then maybe they'll find Elfhelm too. Maybe that would be like the cherry on top, as if they also got to see Elfhelm. I was a little confused. Maybe it talks a little bit more about it in the book, why this map was like hidden in this hat, because this hat was, I guess, something that his mother had given to Joel. So I don't know why she just didn't say, here's the map to Elfhelm, by the way. But I digress. So he is off on his journey. It looks pretty cold and terrible, to be honest. Finland is, by all accounts, a very beautiful place, but it's not the place I would want to go on foot, like all the way like to the North Pole. That seems bad. Not a great time, especially when animals are trying to attack you. We already got attacked by a bear earlier in the story. That's not great. And now a reindeer is also going to attack you. That's about the time that Miika the mouse can start to talk. Stephen Merchant is the voice there of Miika the mouse. Pretty cute mouse. And he warns against this charging reindeer. Now the reindeer was just salty because it got shot by an arrow. So of course Nikolas pulls that arrow out of the reindeer then, and then Mr. Reindeer is indebted to Nikolas and is going to go along on this journey as well, giving Nikolas and Miika a bit of a ride as they make their way through and up like the steepest mountain ever and find themselves near death on the longest road in Elfheim.
The longest road in Elfhelm, which they don't even recognize as a road. I love that piece. They're like about to die. They're pretty sure the end is very near. They can't see anything. And these two human-esque individuals stop them. We see Father Topo, played by Toby
Jones.
Toby Jones. He's amazing. And you see Little Noosh. I don't quite understand the father versus little hierarchy. I never even got it in the book, but that's his name. And he's an elf, and he gives like a hope spell to Nikolas so that he will revive himself. And he lets them know that they are walking on the largest street in the middle of Elfhelm. They've been here the whole time and they didn't see anything, because you have to believe in order to see it. And I really love that transition because again, it's I wouldn't, maybe it's CGI and not really animated, but it looks kind of animated. The way that they show all of the transitions of where the light is shining and you think it's shining on snow, and then all of a sudden there are these little houses and little, like, I don't know, kiosks, and it's like a market, and it's just really sweet and very picturesque. And they follow Father Topo and Little Noosh into this place where they're having a Christmas party, and apparently that is a really big deal.
Yeah, it is a really big deal. It's a really terrible deal, too, if you're in charge of Elfhelm, and you're what was she, the mayor or something of Elfhelm? I don't know. She is Mother Vodal, who comes in with all of her like SWAT team of elves to break up this Christmas party. And she's played by Sally Hawkins, and she hates Christmas. She has been burnt before, right? She met a human once, let her guard down, and then met some more humans, and they totally betrayed her. So no more humans, because the last time they stole one of our kids. That's bad news. And therefore, Nikolas is bad news. You got to get out of here, kid. They throw him like in jail, right? They send him up to like the top of this clock tower, there
Yeah.
where he's going to meet a new friend. Though you get put in jail, that's bad, but you meet a friend, that's pretty good. And it is the Truth Pixie. What's her name? It's just the Truth Pixie, I
I
guess is
think
her
she's
name.
just the
There we
truth
go.
pixie. Yep.
Just the Truth Pixie, played by Zoe Colletti. There, she can only speak the truth, but she has like an arsenal of explosives, so that's pretty good. So she's going to help him make the break. There's like a troll up there that didn't really play any sort of part of anything, but she is going to help him get out of there, right? She goes and Nicholas is like, I can help, right? I can go. I know the people that came here. Probably it's probably my dad. I don't know why he stole your kid. That's bad news. But let me go find him. I can help out. But Mother Vodal's not even having it. She's like, no, don't even care. Gonna lock you up. Keep you out of here, kid, for sure. But yeah, the Truth Pixie does help. I guess get him out of there, and he's gonna be back on his adventure now that he's found Elfhelm. He's got to redeem, the whole of humanity in their eyes.
Right. Right. Well, and he
No
doesn't
pressure,
believe that
young
his
Nicholas.
father, right, right. He doesn't believe that his father's capable of like really kidnapping a little elf, like, or a kid elf, right? That
Hmm.
seems like something his father would just never do. Sure enough, he makes his way in the forest. He finds a group of hunters and he finds little Kip. Little Kip is so cute. He's in a cage. That's not cool. He's trying to
Not great, little Kip.
rescue little Kip, but then he's trapped. And then he discovers that his father is, in fact, one of the group of hunters, and his father won't change his mind. He asks the hunters to go ahead and not only re-lock up little Kip, but also lock up Nicholas. And Nicholas is just distraught that Joel would ever feel this way. He's like, Dad, how could you? Mom always taught us that we had plenty of everything if we loved each other, and he always taught us, she always taught us to be good, and now you are, going the wrong way. Your ambition and the things that you want, why are you so, this is a kid, this is a person, like they need to be home. I mean, it's really a very tough moment, I think, in the show, because it's when you realize as a kid that your parents are fallible and foible,
Hmm.
and they're not the heroes that you think they are. Um, but they do try to run away, and Joel has a change of heart at the very end. It's very sad because Blitzen, he is trying to fly, and I really love the way they animate that, the way they make that look so real.
Hmm.
But he's holding Joel back. Joel is, his weight is holding them back as they're kind of going over this big cliff, and Joel ends up falling and sacrificing himself so that the others can fly away and little Kip can be saved and go back to Elfhelm. That's really tough. And I really like the way that those scenes kind of blended together, because you get this flashback of when Aunt Ruth, played by Maggie Smith, is still talking and telling the story to the three children. And the children are already traumatized, right? They've lost their mom. So they're, telling them a sad story is not actually going to, impart any markings on them, because they've already been through it all. But they ask some
Hmm.
very specific questions. And it's interesting because Maggie Smith's character, Aunt Ruth, says that to them, that, I could tell you the worst is going to happen, but you've already been through it. So it's all downhill from here. Like, you've already been through the most awful thing. So telling you that it gets awful, or telling you that it will get better, is of no consequence. And I don't know why I loved that so much, but I really
Hmm.
did. And it really resonated with me. Um, it's definitely something that the adults watching this movie would take on that the kids maybe wouldn't. But
Yeah.
it's very used in simple language. So maybe I'm not giving, kids enough credit, but I really loved that piece of it.
Yeah, I think she says something along the lines of one of the kids, I think it's little girls, like, why would you tell us the story? This story's so sad and terrible. And she's like,
Right.
well, not all stories are happy. have happy endings, right?
Right.
So that's definitely the sentiment that is coming through there. Now, as you mentioned, we've got little Kip, right? We've got our reindeer now Blitzen. Is able to fly, right? I guess Nicholas has transferred some of the elf magic that was given to him there as he was lying on death's door outside of Elfhelm. So they're able to fly back up there and take Kip back to his family, which is nice. They're having like an all-town meeting basically in which Mother Vodal is just sentencing all these people that had helped Nicholas, like the school teacher, and then presumably, Father Topo is set to be sentenced next there, who had helped young Nicholas on his way. So when he turns up with little kid, what's his little Kip, uh, there, the whole town rejoices. They can take little Kip back to his family, but not Mother Vodal. She doesn't care. She's like, nah, just because you did this one good thing still doesn't mean that people are good. We still have to be, secretive and protect ourselves. We still can't celebrate Christmas, none of that stuff. But when, Kip is reunited with his family, they're going to be overwhelmed with joy and give Nicholas a present. And that gives Nicholas the idea here, right? The king wanted proof that there was magic up in Elfhelm, right? That was what he wanted. He didn't really want you to go and kidnap a kid, probably. Maybe he did, I
Right.
don't know. But he wanted to have proof that there was this magic. So he says, "Hey, Kip's parents, I know you're just reunited with your kids, but instead of hanging out with him, could you get to work making toys for me?" They say, "Yes, of course we can do that." So the whole town comes together. They make candies, they make tops, they make the cutest little things. They make a little beet doll or whatever that guy, a little cabbage
Yeah.
doll, just like his
Yeah.
one that he ate earlier. They make a little mouse that Miika likes. That's pretty good. And he make like a sack full of toys. And they say, "Okay, I'm off." To take this to the king to show him that magic and happiness exist. He can spread this through the realm, and then everyone is going to be better off for it. But about that time, Mother Vodal, who's the worst, comes. She like shoots a tree down with her magic staff, and I was like, "No, you can't leave, kid." You still have to stay here and stay banished forever. And it turns out that Mother Modal really feels betrayed because she met a human before, and that was his mother. And she basically, more or less, I don't know how it talks about this in the story, but I was picking up the vibes that she very much fell in love with Nicholas's mother, and then felt betrayed when she left her that spring. And then when humans came back, there were these bad apples, kind of a thing. So, Nicholas is like, no, no, see, my mom was right all the time. Not these knuckleheads, not my
Right.
dad and his
Yeah.
cronies. My mom's where it's at for humans. So let me
That's right.
go. And Mother Vodal says, okay.
Yeah, basically that's what happens. I mean, it's interesting because they talk about this locket in the book a lot. They don't really talk about it as much. You see it maybe 3 or 4 times before this unveiling moment, which I think is, if I were to offer criticism from a editing perspective, I would have put more of that in because it sort of takes and turns the whole the whole story on its head, because then Mother Vodal is now this grieving person who misses her best friend, who was a human, who left, who never came back. She didn't understand. And she all of her chocolates were gone, and she now sees and realizes that Nicholas was he had one of those chocolates. He remembers his mom talking about it. And so now she feels this sense of like more protection towards Nicholas than anything else. It's very like a Snape Harry Potter kind of thing, but it
Mhm.
happens very fast. And if I were to really give this film like a critique, I would say I would have planted that a little bit differently and played that out a little bit differently, because for the longest time you just don't know why what is wrong with Mother Vodal, other than she's just angry at everybody and
Mhm.
everything. But it's not until that you realize she's just somebody who's very sad and grieving the loss of her friend for years ago, and doesn't realize that she was human. And she knew she was human, but just realized that because she was human, she went back to the land in the South, and she just never made it back up. And then she passed away. So who knows what would have happened? She might have introduced Christmas to her son, Christmas to, Elfhelm eventually, but we'll just never know. And so I like the way it turned, but to me it happened rather quickly, because then she's like, okay, well, that's fine. Go off, show the king these toys. And so then we are back on kind of this Santa story again, where, Blitzen and Nicholas and Miika are, trying to get the king to wake up and not scare him to death in the middle of the night, which is funny. Jim Broadbent, he is so incredibly funny. I love him in everything he's ever done. He's got this like head cap on. He has this big, like, even though this is supposed to be Danish, I think, or Dutch, he's got this huge wig at the beginning, and he's
Finnish. Come on now.
Finnish. He's Finnish, but he doesn't look Finnish at all. It's so funny. He's got this skull cap on, and he's like, "This is so great." And it was like, "Yeah, see, I didn't have to bring you a person. I just needed to bring you toys." And he's like, "Great. Can you do this for everybody? Let's do it for everybody."
I do. That's pretty good when he gets back there. I thought it did okay. They had a nice enough conversation. I think Mother Vodal and Nikolas, they're kind of about that. I think that did a good job. It does show Nikolas like looking at that locket several times throughout the movie, but I wish that I don't think he ever said, maybe he did, because I had kind of that emblem on there, or just maybe just a little bit clear on the fact that maybe that she had gotten that from Elfhelm or something like that, to have tied it back there a little bit. So I don't necessarily disagree with that there. I love when they get to the king, right? Reindeer and boy and mouse come flying in, and they like land on the roof of the king's house, and they get there and he like calls the guards, and Nikolas is like, "Don't call the guards. I don't think they're going to come anyways," which is pretty funny. And then they go off on their adventure, right? They go to deliver toys to all of the children there in this little town that they're living in, and that's pretty good, right? And Nikolas says, "Okay, well, I did that. I showed you how to do that, to spread cheer, to bring magic to everyone. Now you can do that. I'm out of here. I'm going back." And the king is a good king because he's good at delegating things. He's like, "You know what? You already know how to do it. You just do it. You're in charge of it now. You only have to do it one day a year. That's not that bad." And Nikolas says, "Okay, I accept. I'm going to go back to Elfhelm and live out my days now, bringing Christmas cheer to the boys and girls of the world." And that's pretty good. And then there's a twist.
And then there's a twist. So the children kind of realize that this is the story of Santa, and this Aunt Ruth explains what the meaning of Nikolas's actions are, and they understand, and they're like, "Oh, this is really great." Their dad comes home, and they all go downstairs. And even though hours earlier, when Matt left, there was no Christmassy anything in sight, the downstairs is now, it looks like a Macy's Day Parade. It's beautiful. There is so much garland and like lights, and the tree is beautiful. And Aunt Ruth puts on her hat, but she pokes an ear out, and it's very pointy. It's very pointy, much too pointy to be human, if you ask me. And she gives a wink to the kids, telling them that she never tells a lie, and this was an absolutely true story. And then she walks out the door. It's Christmas Eve. There's still time for Santa Claus to come. And as she leaves, she throws up one of her famous Christmas crackers, and it ignites the sky into this really cool, like star-ish firecracker explosion. It's really cool. And we realize that the little young truth pixie that we meet at the very beginning is none other than Maggie Smith in this. And we don't really know how she came to know about these kids, but we're very glad she did, because the movie's now over, and they're, kind of peacefulness and wonder has been restored by the Christmas spirit. And we also got to learn how Santa Claus became Santa Claus in the first place.
That's right. Yeah, it's a pretty good turn. They do tip it a couple of times, right? Because one of the things that Aunt Ruth says throughout kind of the storytelling is that she cannot, she never lies, which is the same thing that the Truth Pixie says when they meet her. I don't know. I guess Aunt Ruth, you would presume that the Aunt Ruth is the like the aunt of these kids' mother who has passed away. So maybe that's true, or maybe that's just what the Truth Pixie does. Maybe she goes and is like an adoptive aunt. Maybe that's something she learned about Nikolas, right? Who had lost his own mother there. That's getting pretty deep for this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it at that. So Michaela, as you mentioned, this was a family favorite, kind of not necessarily yours, because I don't think you'd ever seen it until this week, but certainly something that got played in your household. But having watched it this week, I will say, it was pretty good. I enjoyed watching it quite a bit. I thought that the effects were really neat. I thought that the kind of the visuals of it were really neat. I thought that like the animal effects were really, really good, especially if you think about like a made for Netflix movie, you'd think it might be a little bit lesser than. But I thought like Miika the mouse looked good. I thought that the reindeer looked good. I thought that the bear at the beginning of the movie was incredible. I was like, is that a real bear? I think it's a real bear. And then I'm like, no, I think it's not a real bear, but it looks an awful lot like a real bear.
Right. Oh yeah. When they're like be the forest, I'm like, oh, we're gonna watch this thing get eviscerated. I mean, you got to remember, this is the same people who brought us a California Christmas. This is the same studio. So to put something together like this, and also at the caliber of things like the Christmas Chronicles, which I thought the first one was also very well made. That was really I don't know. I feel like it was a good use of people's time. I really do like this story. It's kind of fun. It's a good origin story. There's
Mhm.
enough of like nefariousness to where there's a good battle and balance between good and evil. And when we realize that evil is just brokenheartedness turned into anger, I find that that's really kind of cool. I mean, my son is still quite young, but he has gotten to the point where he's understanding why Mother Vodal was so mad.
Mhm.
And a couple of years ago, I doubt he would have been able to make that connection. So I kind of like that this film allows for growth. So it can be something that you watch over and over again throughout your, Christmases or holiday seasons. Um,
Right.
and again, but some of the shots are just beautiful. The animations or the special effects are really cool. This first came out, and I think it was right after The Lion King or The Jungle Book, one of the ones that was just kind of raked over the coals for its shoddy animation of like live action animals. And these animals here look great. I mean, the mouse is amazing. I really loved what they did there. And
Mhm.
the comedic gold that the voice actor Steven does is amazing. He's so funny. It's definitely not like I would have pictured it in reading the book, but it's just as amazing. It's really fun. So it's a fun adventure. It's definitely worth people's time.
Yeah, it kind of has this self-depreciating sort of quality to him, the mouse, which is really fun. Yeah, this movie was good. I think that if you're a kid, you probably are definitely going to be geared up for this. To see this kid kind of going on this journey, and it is very much a coming of age Christmas story, which is not something that is new, but it is kind of neat to see it like through the lens of like an actual like I don't know like birth of Christmas, that kind of story.
Mm,
We get some coming of age stories, but it usually has to deal with like the holiday or dealing with family during the holiday, stuff like that, but not actually like the coming of age of, Santa Claus, quote
mm.
unquote, himself. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know that this is something that I'm definitely not going to watch it like every year, but I think that it would be fun to go back and revisit from time to time. I had a good time watching this one. Thought it was pretty good. So that is going to wrap it up for A Boy Called Christmas. So let us know at home if you read the book A Boy Called Christmas, if you watched this back in 2021, if you've never watched it, or if you're just watching it now for the first time alongside of us. We want to know that, and we would definitely want to know if you make a fuzzy red hat from Marigave. Let us know that. Send us pictures, all that stuff. Let us know your favorite Santa Claus origin tale of them all. Let us know. You can send us pictures, give us comments, feedback, all that stuff on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the cocktail we made, get episode recaps, links to the merchandise shop, to Drink the Video Games, to the Patreon, all that stuff is on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. We appreciate everyone who has come along for the ride with us thus far as we make our way to Christmas and our, like, what is this, our like fourth Christmas? Man, that's
Fourth.
pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. So, Michaela, if they want to go, we've got a couple more Christmas things coming everyone's way, including some fun Patreon stuff. Where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify podcasts, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We're on Good Pods. We're anywhere where you can hear us right now. There is a button. You can subscribe. You can like us. You can leave us a 5-star review. We get to do this because of listeners just like you that keep coming back. So we want to do things that you like to hear about. Please let us know on all the socials what you think about all the stuff. If you have a Christmas movie that we've not covered yet, and there's still a few out there. We do probably more Christmas movies than any other type of movie out there, but that makes sense. So if you have one, a special request, please let us know because we would love to bring you more Drink the Movie stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of special requests, I believe we have a special request for next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll let everyone know what that is here in just a couple of days as we make our way into our next cocktail. And like I said, check out the YouTube channel if you want to see the advent calendar go through. That's been a lot of fun to put together. That's just on the YouTube.
Yeah.
.com/drink the movies, I think is what it is. It's in the bio. So check that out. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us with this one. I think that's going to wrap it up for A Boy Called Christmas. We have a lot of work to do, toys to make, tops to paint, and candy to eat, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and put a pin in that one here, Michaela, and we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink
the
the movies.
movies.
Grief is the price that we pay for love, and it's worth it a million times over.